Hello, guys.
Whoa.
What is up?
Hey.
What's up, guys? Wait,
We
Jack,
are live.
I can still hear the music.
Not anymore. We can't.
It was good
Oh
music.
my
That's
god.
totally cool. I was gonna do some moves, but
Yeah. We
It's a
actually have
good
Tara
motivation.
on. We actually have Tara on to do a dance for everyone to those vibes. Oh my gosh. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our show. I feel like I'm on YouTube right now, YouTube show. I'm really excited. I'm Hawa, for those of you that don't know me. I'm the social media manager at Spatial, and I'll let everyone go around and introduce themselves.
I'm Jack. I do support at Spatial, help answer questions for all the users. And below me, I have.
all right. So I'm Tara, and I'm a technical program manager at Spatial. I basically do like all the releases across the platforms for our team. Super excited to be talking to you guys today.
That
Thank
was
you
such a
for joining us.
humble, I know, it was such a humble introduction. Tara is amazing, you guys. She pretty much keeps our entire Eng team on track and like makes sure that everything's working properly. We have a lot of glues in our company, and she's definitely one of the people that keep us together and keep us in line and organized with our demos and everything that persists with our games or consists of our games. Um, so today I'm excited because it's
Thanks, Howard.
super I know, of course, and I definitely want you to go into your background as well, Tara, before we hop in. But quickly, I just want to kind of give a brief of what we're working on today and what we're going to be chatting about. It's all about the process of game development, but also in the sense of like, how do you start? How do you do? How do you get that ideation going? How do you test your game? How do you make sure everything's working properly and debugging? And all of these things are really, really crucial to have a successful game, and to also just make sure that your community and your users and your guests are all having a seamless and an amazing experience for what you intended. So shout out to you, Tara. We love you at Spatial, and I would love for you to give a thorough introduction of your background. And like, I know I told you I was going to do this to you. You were so knowledgeable, and I definitely want everybody to be able to soak up all the cool things that and how important it is to kind of like know these processes and how to do them efficiently. So yes, tell us about your background, Tara, and how you come to know all of these amazing things.
Sure. I mean, that's a really, really nice introduction, Hawa. Thank you. So I started out as a game producer. I worked in the video games industry for a few years. So my job is mostly working, with game developers, artists, marketing, basically everyone who's involved in making games in order to deliver a game project. So I've worked with, a variety of clients, like let's say from Disney to Oculus, building like from theme park rides all the way to like VR games. So I've been trying a lot of different processes in building game, and so that's always been my passion. But when I found out about Spatial, right? Spatial is like this platform where it has the same like graphics and game technologies to enable creators to build things. I got really excited because it's kind of like a game, but also kind of like a platform for creators. So I love the experience of working closely with creators in order to empower, not only our internal teams to build experience, but also for external developers and creators to build the same type of experience on the platform. So yeah, that's how I came to work for Spatial. It's been 2 years, 3 months now. Yeah, so it's been a while.
Woo!
Amazing.
Loving
Congratulations.
here and loving the whole crowd of our creators who constantly building new stuff that surprise our team. So yeah.
Yes. Yes, and none of it would be possible without you. Thank you so much for that introduction. And I'm like blown away, like as we like kind of move into this like new space with Spatial, and we're trying to, really build games that are meaningful. We're trying to like get that hit game, and it's really, really exciting to have you on the team and just kind of guiding us through that and making sure everything is working smoothly. So thank you for that, Sarah. As you guys can see, she's that girl. She's got some
Kind of
skin in
bringing
the game.
all the
He's got some
fast
skin in
rapid
the
up.
game.
Yeah.
Our team would not, be as successful if it wasn't for you and Jack and
Mm.
Tyrone and Jake always trying to put, and of course Gia too, like always trying to put what we build to the creators and helping them on board. So, huge appreciation to you guys.
Yes, growth team. We adopted you as well, Tara. To our growth team madness. Okay, yes, let's get into it, guys. I don't want to like take up too much time. Tara, I don't know if you want to share your screen. You want to kind of hop into, kind of the intro. I think we should give kind of an umbrella of, what we're going to get into, and that kind of starts with the game development phases, I think. And I know you have a few videos you kind of want to show too. So let's hop
Sure.
in and do this thing.
All right.
Hey, we got Altered Alley here. Adsic Beaver has been rocking with us. Tyrone, Jacob, Jake, Sam is here.
So let's see. Yeah, this is just, some of the projects that I've been involved in. So, one of this, if you go to Disneyland a lot, then this is the project that we launched in 2022.
No way.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Multiplayer games, you go into this car, and then they kind of move around into a track. And that's when you use this, you use your hands to kind of act like Spider-Man, shooting out webs to attack.
Wait, this is so lit. Wait, what world? Wait, where in Disney World is this?
This is Disneyland in California and one in Paris. Yeah, so they have this proprietary camera where they kind of track the player's movements. And so, if you are playing as a Spider-Man character, which is the main character of this game, then they'll be able to see where your hands are moving, and that's when all the webs are slinging out to attack the monsters.
So it's like first person.
This is a first person, but it's a multiplayer experience. So you have other people with you inside the car, and they could be Iron Man, or they could be other characters, and they would have their own power in order to attack all of these bots and win together.
Wow. This is so dope. I love Spider-Man. I watched the movie that just came out literally 3 times in theaters. No regrets.
Yeah, no, it's a great movie. A lot of good graphic technology being put into that movie. So this is back in the day when I was working with Disney closely to develop this game. And I'm really glad to see that a lot of people were really into this. Yeah.
What aspects of this were you involved in?
I was a game producer, so we have a team of about 50 developers internally. This is a studio that I'm working with that work directly with Disney. And then Disney also have their own team. So we work really closely together. So yeah, I'm basically a producer working with, engineers, artists, game designers, sound designers, and then even the script writer to kind of put this experience together.
Nice. Oh,
wow.
I want to go try this. I need to go.
I know. I'm I want to play.
You sure? It's really fun to play as Spider-Man, but I highly recommend to get the gauntlet so that you could be Iron Man, because the power that projects from the hands of Iron Man is a lot more visible to see. So it feels a little bit more satisfying.
Okay.
Wow.
Yes.
Inside secrets.
I can't imagine how much goes into producing a game like this. The budget was probably crazy, of course.
Yeah.
And that's just so much goes into every little detail. I mean, this is so complex. I can't wait to get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What does it take? You know what I mean? So what? So okay, to build something like this, obviously there's phases of game development. So what phases? Let's kind of get into that. Starting from ground zero, to build something like that, where do you begin? How do you start? And where are each of the phases?
Yeah, so game development is it could be a short process or it could be a really long process depending on how much budget you want to put into the game. So, you usually start out with okay, you have to do market research. You got to see is the game genre that you want to build is something that people want to play? What kind of platform do you want to put it on? And, do you have the budget and the feasibility in order to build that type of game, right? And then you move into the pre-production, once this is the type of game you want to build and this is the type of game that players want to play, then you start writing out okay, what are the game design requirements? What are the tech requirements? So that's just all all the planning phase that go into pre-production. Sometimes you would have a small engineering team trying to build really simple mechanics, prototypes, just to play test with other people to see okay, does this mechanic feel satisfying? Is it something that we want to build upon? And then you evaluate from there. Like if it is something that is feasible and a lot of people love it, then you continue to bring that into production, which is the main phase here.
So during market research and pre-production, you're kind of like developing the scope of the game as well in general, like what's going to be okay. So I was assuming, because you obviously like some can be huge, some can be minor. So all that kind of happens in this beginning phase. How long, or like, I guess it kind of depends on the project, but like for example, for that Spider-Man game, like how long was market research and like pre-production for that?
Yeah, so the market research and pre-production lasts about 6 to 8 months for that.
Wow,
Spider-Man.
that's crazy.
Something that Disney already have a lot of data for us to build upon, so that's why the process is a little bit shorter. It's more about like prototyping mechanics and see if it's something that they could build in the park.
That's a crazy range. So it could be like 6 to 8 months, or like 4 to 6 weeks, basically. Like,
yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah. And then the production phase of that particular project lasts about 2 years.
So
with
how do you determine
inside.
like what the scope is going to be though? I know, like, I guess, is it all dependent on budget or like resources, or like how do you know how much time to dedicate?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? Like, I mean, all game studios always wondering like how small or how big the game should be. So I think that's like, of course, one is like how much budget do you have? Two is like what kind of game do you want to build that the players would be willing to pay for, right?
Got you.
Yeah, because if you have enough like research knowledge or experience building previous game, then you kind of understand, okay, this is how much players would be willing to pay for this game. Or maybe if you want to build for an Oculus game, then you kind of have to think, hey, how many people out there actually having an Oculus at home, right? So from there, you kind of plan it backward to see that, okay, if that's the case, then how much should I price the budget of building game? And then, yeah, and that's where the scope comes from. Once in a while, it also depending on the technology, right? So let's say if you really want to be like innovative in trying out new game mechanics, that maybe you give yourself a little bit more budget to experiment with new things. But if it is something that you build like a follow-up of an existing game, then you kind of already know the mechanics and the budget that is needed. So you kind of just, resource it accordingly. So
I love that you said like you work backwards almost, because you kind of have to have some type, I guess that's where the market research comes in as well, but you do have to have some type of like vision, especially if it's innovative, something that hasn't been like done, to kind of project like where things are going to go. Will this be successful? So that's something that makes a lot of sense, almost working backwards to kind of ensure that you're like on track.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like some teams, they're a little bit more risk adverse, or maybe they just want to be frugal with how they spend for experimentation. Because sometimes when you try something new, you don't know if it's going to work or not. So that's when you're going to, okay, instead of doing like 3 months budget for this experiment, you do 1 week budget, see how it goes, build a prototype. If it's good, then you add another week, and then you just keep adding week after week after
So
week.
it's very step by step. Yeah, got you. Cool. Okay, I'll be quiet now.
No, this is all great questions, guy. You helped me ease into the topic, which I absolutely
Okay, good. I'm like, these are like actual legit questions, because I'm like,
because I could go like really like tactical level and all the details, and then you get bored about it.
I'm here for all of it. I'm here for all of it.
So yeah, so we just talk about like a lot of like play testing, see how it works, see how the people react to it. So that's basically a key part of like production as well. So once you start building the games, you don't want to just keep building and never test with the users, right? Because sometimes you don't know how the users will react. So you kind of have to have this like cadence of play testing in order to discover new insights or to find things that you didn't anticipate that the players would react that way. Testing is super key in production here. And then once all of that is done, then you have QA. QA is like professional testing group where they just, they have a lot of experience playing games. So they just go into the game, they're trying to break everything so that they could tell you all the bugs for you to fix. So
got you.
Yeah.
So even
like
with
like a hitman team.
Yeah, like let's see what's happening, right? But I love, I'm obsessed with production, just like in the sense of like like films, like all that kind of stuff. And I know like how much goes into it. So I'm really interested in like the game development, like process with production, because it's so different. Obviously, a lot of it is like you know, you're building internally, but I know there's still like a lot of art that goes into it and a lot of like thought. So like what are like the stages of production for building a game? I guess you can talk about it on a large scale or
Mm,
on the small scale. Um, but I know like even the roles, I feel like I don't really know. Like
mm.
you have like different roles and different people that are doing different things. I kind of saw a taste of it with like Punch Hero and those in the games that we've released, but I would love to know more about like what that is or what that consists of.
Yeah, so building games is, is a very magical process. So,
I
from
love
my
that word.
point of view, is because, in order to create a games that you play, right? Like think of, something simple like, Nintendo, Super Mario, to something like a little bit more complex, like The Last of Us, right? So like you
Mhm.
have people coming from all, I guess, walks of life who contribute to the game making process here. You have like writers, you have sound designer, musician, you have game developers, you
Mhm.
have 3D artists, animators, technical artists,
Wow. Ah,
QA, right? And then you have the audience also involving in playtesting and giving you feedback, right?
Huh.
Um, yeah, there's just like, and UI designer. So there's like so
yeah.
many different aspects of games that people come in and contribute. And you also have like marketing team who doing all the product messaging and like trying to figure out the right launch plan that people will react well with. So
Mhm.
yeah, there's so many different groups, and so that's why in the production phase you have to plan out, okay, maybe if you have the in pre-production, for example, once you have like game design requirements, art requirements, story requirements, then all these people come together to create those documents. It's a lot of writing in the beginning. um, and then once the writing is approved or greenlit from, like, let's say leadership team, or just
Mhm.
aligned across everybody, then we start production, which means like you go deeper into like, okay, artists, let's build all the environment. You can start with like
Mhm.
white boxing, which is basically just big box, just to test
Mhm.
out like how the scale of everything feels. And then game designer, they would think about logic. Let's say, okay, if the character do A, then X happen, right? So they need
Yeah.
all the game logic, the quest, the consequence, the rewards. And then you have like UI designers thinking through like, okay, how do we choose the font? How do we display the buttons? How do we make this button animate? Right?
Yes. Oh my God. It's so
Yeah, no,
detailed.
there's so much that you have to get people involved and contribute. And then of course the game engineers, they would think about like how to do like basic functionality or very complex functionality in order to hook up the system of all of these like characters and the environment and the VFX and lighting and music. Uh,
Yeah, sound design too. It literally is like making a movie basically. What like
yeah.
obviously you have people acting, so it's like, oh, I don't need to like tell myself how to fall right now. Like,
Exactly. You
but
know,
you
Yeah.
know, but like in a
just
game, like you
campaign
literally have to
modes.
think about, yeah, you have to think about every, you know, every little aspect of like what it feels like to be in that driver's seat first person. If you're playing third person, like if it's multiplayer, how do like the characters interact with each other? You know, and there's a lot of like art that goes into that. And I'm interested in when you say like marketing too. Like I wonder how involved like the marketing team is from like the beginning of that. Are they in like the writing stage or do they like come at a certain time, like towards the end or like
Mhm. Yeah, so marketing get involved since the beginning and the end.
mhm,
I think they have a bigger role since at the beginning when they do like a lot of the market research, and then
mhm,
at the end, which is when the product is about to launch, like how do they engage
mhm,
the players, but also think of, okay, where do my players hang out? Where do they discover new games, right? So let's say if a lot of people discover games now through influencers, then marketing would be like, okay, who are the influencers should we talk to build the relationship and to get them to
mhm,
promote our games? Or like
right,
we talk to platforms, let's say Google, Apple, or Oculus, right? To kind of like
mhm,
put our game on like the feature page, for example, so that more people
mhm,
will be able to see your game. So yeah,
right,
marketing is involved through and through, and of course they would give some like some feedback on like certain game mechanics, if it's easy or hard for players to
right.
play.
Or like feels if it feels natural or like yeah, getting
Yeah.
people that are like outside of the immediate building process to kind of like test things as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, okay. I'm learning so much. I hope you guys are learning so much. Also, if you have questions, always feel free to chat them, because we can ask them for you guys. So,
Yeah, please
um,
do throw
yeah,
stuff in the chat.
definitely. This is an open conversation. If you guys, otherwise, I'll keep asking all these questions, and y'all are gonna get annoyed with me. But okay, great. I'm learning so much, Sarah. This is amazing, and it's because I love production, but I've always like looked at it and been involved in it in a different way, which is like content, or like, you might have a product like a makeup brand or something. You kind of have to like, you have your call sheet and you have the director on set, and so, but it's also live, and I also come from like a crazy, I'm a theater kid, if you can't tell. So like that production is kind of different. But like production is such like a vague world, like word, but when you like dive into the details, it's so many like different parts that kind of go into it. And it's really interesting with game design, because something that might feel so like natural to you when you're playing it, also like a lot of thought and like research and like so
Yeah, I
much
was
went
like
into
that.
that. Yeah, like you know what I mean, Jack? Like so much went
Yeah.
into that for it to feel smooth. Like if it feels smooth, there's probably a lot of complexness behind it. If it doesn't feel
Yeah.
smooth, probably didn't
Yeah.
do enough of, market research, pre-production, production, your play testing, your Q&A.
Yeah.
But yes, we can continue and hop into like release and post-release.
Yeah. Yeah, around those phase, and this is also something that is really important for marketing too, is that like games usually they have trailer videos, so they
Mhm.
would drop like, oh, this is trailer video coming out soon, for example. And so previously when I work with marketing team, is like, okay, how do we make sure that our trailers will catch the attention of the players so that they would like
Mhm.
add this to Steam, or like they would like mark the day of the launch so that they could buy and play immediately. So for
Mhm.
example, I can show you what we did for this one. All right. So I was involved in this game called I Expect You to Die 2 on the Oculus Store. And this is a VR game. So
Wow.
when we create the trailer video, we know that for VR games, people love to do things with their hands.
Mhm.
Um, and this is, all the feedback that we've got from playtesting, that, people always chuckle when they do very simple interactions in VR. And so
Yeah.
that's why when we produce the trailer video, we always zoom in what your hands are doing and all the silly interactions that you would be able to do in
Wow.
the right. So like something like, holding a wine bottle, like cutting something, trying to figure out like a puzzle, explosion, or like eating a
But this
donut,
is
like
this is
things.
so true. We actually had this moment, Tara. We had this, Jack. We had this moment when we were in Ludi's space in Spatial, and you remember you could like turn on the water, you like press F, and like you could like use your hands and like
Oh,
just do different things in his crib. But it's so simple, like what you're saying, Tara. Like so simple, like you wouldn't expect it to be like, like eating a donut or like picking up a wine bottle. But like when you can do certain things like that, I think it like triggers something like, oh wow, like I do this in real life, like now I'm doing this like in this like animated world or like this game.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's really crazy that you just said that, because we literally had that moment on the last live, doing the
Yeah.
most basic things.
Yeah, yeah. So like it really depends on like, hey, what kind of platform are you building on, and what kind of
Yeah.
like player behaviors that are very popular with this type of platform and genre. Then you kind of delve deep into it with the trailer video so that you can excite people. And this is where like product management and marketing work really closely together to identify those behaviors. And
Mhm.
yeah, like the whole process of game building is basically creating a fantasy, right? Like you create a fantasy. Same with movies. You create a fantasy for people to kind of delve into it. Uh,
Right, storytelling basically at its
yeah.
finest. Yes, I think we have a question, Tara. Do
Mhm.
you decide the criteria to exit a beta testing phase before starting that phase?
Yeah, so let's go deeper into production milestones, which I think what the question here is asking about. So I can show you an example of what we did for one of our games. So yeah, this is the one of the games that Spatial built in order to put ourselves in the developer's shoes, using our own toolkit to create the games and learn from our experience there so that we can improve the toolkit. So the
Tara.
schedule that we have here is that this is a casual game that we want to build. And so we know that, okay, we want to be able to do rapid prototyping. So we build, into our process like a weekly cadence where the developers would build something and then play test with other people. On the largest scale of things, we put in this like, kind of like a waterfall process where you have certain milestones, because this is something that we want to put as the budget for the game. So let's say 2 or 3 months. right? So you plan from there. Okay, let's say pre-production with research, and then MVP, which is like the first time you actually deliver a prototype to feel the mechanics of it. And then weekly cycles of like just production, building upon, you know, layer of the game in order to play test quickly. And then you bring in QA to test it. And then soft launch and hard launch is kind of like alpha launch or beta launch. So soft launch is when you have like all the components kind of put together in a nice presentable way, enough for people to understand what they need to do in the game and how they can complete the game from end to end. Hard launch is when you actually have all the promotion, all the marketing ready to go, and the game is just like, okay, launch now, everybody can just play. There are certain games where soft launch, like you launch it to like a small group of users. So let's say you have like, as a studio, right, you have built, I don't know, like 100,000 of fans for the beginning phase of the game. So those are like the early access tester that you want to rely upon and kind of build up that, you know, fandom since the start of the production. So, you know, some games they would soft launch with just a small group of audience, and then hard launch is when they do it for everyone on all devices.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just really depending on like the type of game you want to build, the platform, and then you can see like, okay, do we want to test the full game with everybody, or do we want to test half of the game, or do we want to do the full game with a smaller group or the larger group? I know it's like a lot of different criteria.
Yeah. No, but it makes sense. Like, what's going to make the most sense? Like, are we prepared enough to launch it fully to a small group? You know, do we want to test just this phase of the game to X group, you know, like A/B testing, whatever. So that makes complete sense. And I think it's almost more common, like, I don't know what you would say, Tara, but you think it's obviously like more common to test with smaller groups, like in different stages, or like more common? That's probably more common, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for every phase of the game, you kind of need to set goals. So let's say in the beginning, you want to test just the game mechanics, right? So you focus on building the mechanics and the core loop of the game, and then you test that. But then the rest of the environment, the sound design, the character design, maybe that is just placeholder for now, like white boxing on Unity. And then after that, you build upon it, right? You get enough playtest feedback for the game mechanics, you improve it. Now the art team can continue to build up, maybe like, you know, start building with like the full shape of the environment without actually texturing. And then you bring in tester to test, focusing on the environment. Like, did this environment make you feel a certain way? Is this environment easy to navigate from zone A to zone B? Does this environment excite you to continue to explore more in order to get a certain reward, right? So for every certain milestone, you bring in the right tester and the amount of tester appropriately for that phase. So my experience in the past, I think 5 testers to start out is probably good enough.
Oh, wow. Okay. I don't know
Yeah.
why I was thinking so much more.
Yeah, I think 5 testers every week, that's more than enough feedback for you to process, because you don't want to be overwhelmed with feedback when you're just starting out with the game, you know, because there's so many things that will continue to come into the game. So
Right. So you
yeah.
keep it super controlled and small, like very specific things. That I guess this is the perfect time to go into like play testing, and kind of like, you know, what that process looks like. Who, you know, how do you determine who's a good tester? Like, I'm sure this all.
Like,
Yeah,
what
I
do you
know.
look
Like,
for in them? Like,
yeah, like you would be a good tester. Like, what does that even mean? So yeah, let's hop into that, Tara.
Well, let me see what playtesting stuff I have here. Okay. Yeah, so I did prepare a template. If anybody, you know, from our community would like to use this for your game, please feel free.
Oh my God, that's so helpful.
This is basically all the tips that I have gathered in the past from working on previous games. So yeah, finding testers is tricky because you need to find the people that really belong to your target audience, right? So let's say if people who like to play Super Mario, they might not really into playing Last of Us, right? So you have to figure out like, okay, who are these people? Where can we find them? So a lot of times in the past, I would connect to like existing like gamers community online, whether it's on Discord or on like Reddit forum. I also reach out to university communities, to identify, like, okay, who are these people, and then like what type of genre do you want to play, and do you have the devices that I need you in order to play the game.
Mhm.
And then sometimes there are third-party services online that would be able to reach out to like hundreds and thousands of testers across the globe for you. Of course,
Yeah.
you pay for this kind of service, but I feel them super helpful in like finding new testers that you wouldn't have otherwise being able to reach by just cold emailing on like community forums or universities.
Yeah.
So services are like user testing, Antidote. There's like a lot of those play testing services out there that you can reach out in order to connect.
What are the sessions like? Like, is it? I'm like imagining myself like when you had to take like the CRCT, like and and you're like they have like the booklet and they're like, all right, like passing it all out. Like, what does like a session? Is it like supervised? Like, what is like a play tester experience like?
So there are two types of sessions that you could do. One is live and supervised, which means, hey, you and me, let's go on a video call. We do this together. I watch you play, right?
Okay.
And then there's like another type of session where you just send out your game, and then people can just play on their own time, and they would fill out a survey afterwards, and then they send it to you. There are pros and cons for each type of sessions. So like the live one, the benefit to that is that you can ask questions as people play, and you can also observe their behaviors. So, as I mentioned earlier, like creating game is creating a fantasy, right? And giving people certain emotions. So the live session is really helpful because you get to see if people actually laugh at the moment that you want them to laugh.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Designed for them to be surprised, right? But then, of course, you can ask those questions for the unmoderated sessions as well, because people can just fill out the survey. But of course, when you fill out the survey, then the answers are usually a little bit more filtered. But you collect more information with the number of testers that way, because your time is limited. You can only go live with people for a certain amount of time.
Right.
You send like unmoderated tests out, then hundreds of people can just fill out in a day and give it back to you.
That like makes me like think now, like that process is so like what I've like never like thought about like through this to this extent, and now I'm thinking like how do you like what metrics do you use? I heard you say survey, but like how do you record that like data and like make use of it at a later time? Because like it's not as simple as like, oh, check yes or no, or like like things that are easily like 1 + 1 = 2. Like this is really subjective. Like this person had an experience. Like are they just like freely writing their feedback and you guys are taking it and it's deciding like what's the most important to move forward with, or like what metrics or systems do you use to like collect that data? And I think maybe Jack could kind of tap in here as well, because even with support for spatial, like how do you gather feedback and like how do you do that in an efficient like systemic way, I guess.
Yeah, so for if it's live, then of course you can watch and record the emotions and the observation yourself. But if it's unmoderated, then people can record themselves. Let's say on Zoom, right? Let's say if you're playing a spatial game on Zoom, then you can definitely record your screen and also your face. We can also do that for VR games as well. Like you can just turn on the Zoom and then you wear the headset, you do your thing. You can also stream whatever you experience in the game on the Chrome tab. I believe Oculus let you do that, so that you just put the screen share recordings together. And
then you like, so do you like have like a spreadsheet of like, oh, tester group A, and then you just like have their experiences, like notes of their experiences? Like kind of like there's a lot of psychology in this, I feel like.
I mean, Google survey works. You can just get the survey and then dump it all into a spreadsheet. I find spreadsheets super useful. Like everything I do is like spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Once I work with developers, then I would like categorize all the feedback, all the bugs, which one is most critical to fix within the time that we have in our budget. And then I put that into like a project management tool for developers or designers to work on. And that's like a different tool set, kind of like Trello, Asana, Jira, or Linear, which is what we're using at Spatial. But I'm curious, what do you think? Like, how do you usually collect feedback and and
Mhm.
categorize it for us.
Well, I definitely agree with you when you say that being on a live call with somebody is always like the best way because you have that, real time connection with them on exactly what they're going over with you. But then next to that, like being able to have a video recorded and somebody talking through their explanation or their experience is also like, I think, the next most valuable thing. And then of course, like the information about, or like if you can't have a live video from them, then of course whatever they can write out is great.
Mhm.
Something that I think is always very important to remember is that we all, like pretty much everybody has like some different model or type of machine. And so that can like be a big impact, believe it or not, on like some of the, results that you can get when playing a game and stuff. So like remembering that as an aspect of like, if you're somebody testing something or you're out in the community and you experience something, like remembering to report like, oh, here's what I'm using to play this on. And then any content that can actually show whether it's a bug or like a moment that you get stuck and like be like, I'm not sure what to do next kind of thing. Because then once the people that are building it are able to watch that and see that, they'll know right away. It's even more easier to interpret than reading it out.
Yeah, 100%.
No, that makes sense. Like what you kind of have to have that discernment. Obviously, it's easier for the builders, but like, okay, is this player just getting stuck? Like, did they follow a different loop or a different flow and they ended up here, or like, or is this like a legit bug? And I know that's something that I've learned, especially with my like experience at Spatial, just like seeing people like DM or like whatever's happening with support, like, oh, like I can see something now and be like, oh, that's not a bug. Like you just are like in the wrong spot, or like, oh, that is a bug. I need to like let Tara know about this.
Yes.
That makes complete sense. And I know you guys both have a lot of experience with that. And that kind of like brings us to the next phase, like effortlessly, Tara, which is kind of like quality assurance. I know you wanted to talk a little bit about like debugging and like what that process looks like. And maybe we could finish off play testing as well. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about Punch Hero with play testing, or we can just hop right into debugging. It's up to you.
I guess we can just finish the playtest for
Okay,
Punchiro to
gotcha.
give creators the example of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for Punchiro, after we create the different milestones during production, we decided, okay, when the playtest point will be. So let's say we finished milestone 1, 2, 3. Let's do a big playtest. So the way I organize it is like 45-minute session for about like 8 to 10 people. I think that's about a good amount of time because Punchiro is a very simple game that you could finish playing within like, I would say like 5 to 8 minutes. So I would work with the game designer to kind of create this instruction doc in advance. So, letting people know, okay, this is how you download the build. This is the instruction to play. And these are all the questions that I would want, the tester to focus on when they play. Yeah, so like, you get people together on a Zoom call and the spatial game all together. So that it's easy for you to, troubleshoot problems while playing the game. People just kind of read through the doc and then they start playing. So depending on the type of testers, you will meet like people who just kind of want to, play silently, or like there are people who just like really like to play and talk. So you need to have the facilitator of the play test. So that could be either be me or the game designer. So keep the conversation going after people play. And let people kind of like process their feedback and then document everything on the doc. Then after the 4-minute session's done, then I would talk to the team who build the game to kind of like, okay, this is all the feedback, this is all the bugs. We have 2 weeks to go into the next milestone. How do we make sure we're able to address the most critical one?
Yeah.
And
That
you
makes
identify the critical aspect, the priority aspect of it based on like how does it impact the core loop of the game. So this game is essentially like you punch walls, you gain points, you collect pets, right? So that's basically like the core loops of it. So when you want to make sure all the bugs and feedback that kind of jeopardize that game flow, you need to fix. The rest of it is nice to have.
Like extra kind of like support there. I feel like we should demo Punch Hero now. Like Jack, I just need you to take over screen share right now and like maybe we take like a Punch Hero break. No, but that makes perfect sense, Tara, in the sense of like I guess Spatial, I mean, this is a shameless plug, obviously not just saying this, but Spatial is kind of a perfect place to like test your game because it's so low risk. Like you're able to
Mhm.
build with the toolkit, you're able to test against multiple platforms. It's free, like that. Like we kind of built the perfect environment to test our own games, but also like for other people too. And now I'm kind of understanding like more of the value in that because you know you can have 10 of your friends come and play this game, and you know you have this whole not spreadsheet but like process that you have written out, and like anybody can kind of take those steps on Spatial if they're like a new game developer and want to test something and you know don't want to have a lot of risk or maybe don't have a lot of budget. That's like the perfect opportunity to do so. So I feel like that just clicked in my head more so than before.
Yeah.
But I do want to demo Punch Hero so everyone can kind of see like what game we're talking about.
Yeah, I just loaded in so I can share.
Cool.
There we go.
So for those of you that don't know, many of you guys have played this. Some of you guys have like more dragons than me. Oh my God, this dolphin avatar is still with us. I love him so much. So yeah, guys, I let Tara kind of like chat more about like what she was just saying, but this is obviously the game that we've been talking about, Punch Hero, and it is simple. Like Tara said, you can play it in 5 to 8 minutes, but you know, there's a lot of processes, and we built these games quite quickly. So I don't know if you want to kind of talk through some of the process here on this, Tara, but kind of the play test.
Interesting. Yeah, so like, when we did the playtest, the core loop is essentially already done because that's the goal of the playtest. We're going to build a complete core loop. We have, the rough environment kind of look ready to go, and then give it out to playtest. So,
Oh my God, that's so loud.
Oh, it's loud.
You just blew my ears out.
I can't even hear it.
You just punched my ear directly.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I can't hear anything, so I'm surprised.
The sound effects are so good. Sound
I
design.
love it.
Shout out to the sound
Blurs, sound
designer.
effects, the punching, the mechanics.
Yes.
Yeah, so we test, right? We ask people, hey, does it feel satisfying when you punch this wall?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what would makes you continue to punch, right?
Right.
How does the environment feel? Does it make you want to explore certain areas? Right? Like, do you want to go through the walls? Do you want to go through the gates? Is there anything that's stopping you from progressing?
Yes.
Is there anything confusing? Is there anything you wish to do but we didn't support? I think that's really important. Like the magic
Oh
wall.
yeah, like what did you think of? Yeah, that maybe
Yeah.
we hadn't thought of. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that happens quite naturally when you're playing too. Like you just think, oh, it'd be cool if I could do this.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's harder to think of that, I guess, if you're like building the entire game.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is really cool though. Like I love hearing like the process of it because it's like quite complex. Yes, much better volume on the punch jack. Thank you.
Yep, of course.
But also with this playtesting session, Tara, were these super controlled or did you like just let the users kind of openly explore?
So control in the sense that I picked the testers that I know would give us really good feedback on like the game design and game feel. The way the playtest is run is pretty open. Like I gave the instruction docs, they go through, they play together, and they just kind of document their findings. But I have all the playtest questions for them to fill out. So which is part of the template that I showed you guys earlier. Like you want to be able to find out like the most favorite moment of the player, the least favorite moment, the magic wand moment, things you wish you could do, but the game didn't support. And then another thing which is super, super important too, especially when you want to bring people back to the game to keep playing, is the retention questions, which is like, hey, is there any point in the game where you feel like you don't want to play anymore? Like you feel bored, right?
Or like what would
to...
make you come back, or what would make you play for longer, or what would make you come back?
Yeah, exactly. Because we're building a live game, right? So we want to keep bringing people either come back to the game to play, or starting out fresh. So those are the, like, you kind of need to figure out like, okay, what kind of questions that player would be able to give you at that stage of the game.
so cool. I'm learning so much from you, Tara. This is so great.
Oh, no. I mean,
Are
we're
you?
learning from each other by, building the games. I mean, I
I
basically
know.
learn from just working on projects.
Of course, but it's super cool to hear like a fresh perspective on something that I've played and like, obviously we're all on the spatial team, but like we all kind of work on different things and like
Mhm.
it's really cool to kind of like get more of a perspective on like how much really goes into this. Obviously, like I'm on like the marketing side of it. But it's really cool to hear like how much testing and how much work and how much care goes into building a good experience. And that's something that I know like the spatial team cares about. So it's really cool to hear, firsthand from an experience that I'm currently playing. Like I love Punchiro, I love Infinite Ascent. So
Mm.
that's really, really cool. Okay, let's get into some debugging. My favorite. I love the big red
Everybody's
bug
favorite.
button.
Yeah, debugging is like a beast of
I
its own.
know.
Um,
Debugging is so important though. I have so
yeah.
many like questions on this, like
Um,
prioritizing, like there could be a
Yeah.
lot of things wrong, but like what should you do? Who should work on it? You know,
Mhm.
role wise. I think people undervalue. I mean, obviously the stage is like very valued, but it's also like undervalued in the sense like it's so important to make sure that your game runs smoothly. Like please make sure it works smoothly. So let's definitely hop into that, and I'll let you kind of start off with that.
Yeah,
Um,
so
quality
QA,
assurance.
yeah, so QA is quality assurance, right? So essentially, this is different from playtesting because this might not be your potential audience. Like
Mhm.
QA is basically a team of professional who basically test games for a living. So they're very professional in how they work, and they're very experienced in testing, different types of
So
games.
play testing is more like subjective, and this is more like objective, like this straight up
Yep, straight
works
up.
or doesn't work. Okay. So
Yep.
not so much on experience, but like functionality, I guess.
Yep, exactly. All about functionality, stability, cross-platform testing,
Mhm.
compatibility. So yeah, we have a group of testers at Spatial who test our platform, but also our games. So their job is
Mhm.
essentially, hey, ensure everything that developers build work as intended. So, another template here. So let's say for stability,
Mhm.
game, you need to be able to load. That's like the most number one, like the number one priority. Right? Like,
Loading, check.
yeah,
anything.
so like, hey, I have a game. Does it load when you're trying to enter it? If it doesn't load, then that's like code red we need to fix before we can launch it.
Oh my
Things
God. Ship,
wrong.
what do we call it? Ship blocker.
Yeah, we call it ship blockers. So and you have to think of like how do these games surface to users, right? So let's say on
Mhm.
Spatial, we have the homepage on Spatial where all the games are kind of there. So QA would go into, okay, go to Spatial homepage, find this game, trying to enter and
Mhm.
see if it loads. Does it load on all the devices? So web, mobile, and VR, right? And then if you think of like, let's say creators, you like to do, a lot of Twitter announcements. So which means you're going to share your game link, which is, one of the things that Spatial really cares about. Like you need to be able to share it out to your users easily with a shared URL. So my
Mhm.
QA team would be like, okay, I'm going to go to, random creators Twitter and then click on the link to see if it actually loads people into the game.
Yeah.
And then they're
Mhm.
gonna verify, okay, do the game content, the visuals, the audio, the thumbnail, the description, the tags, do they all
Mhm.
load as designed? If they don't, then that's something that they would flag to me, and then I would talk to developers to kind of like reprioritize all these bugs with the rest of the work that they are doing before we
Mhm.
actually launch it. Um, so that's stability. We also ask QA to test like basic functionality of the gameplay.
Mhm.
So let's say you have this game loop. QA will be able to play through the entire game, and they would tell you, okay, do this feature work as intended. Um, yeah.
Yeah. So how do you know, just a side question, how do you know that fixing one, I don't know if this is like too Debbie, but like how do you know that like fixing one bug isn't gonna like introduce another one, and or like how do you ensure that like a bug that you're trying to fix isn't part of like a larger issue? or like, you know, regression, like, okay, if I fix this, like, is it gonna happen again? Like, you know, like, I think, I don't know if that's like too Debbie or whatever, but I'm just kind of curious, like, is there a process for that?
Yeah, I mean, when you build something, it's very normal to have bugs. It's just part of the process. So our
Yeah.
engineers, they code the game, right? So they would
Mhm.
know, okay, if there's a bug over here, then they would be able to go back into Unity, or like to
Mhm.
their code base, and then they were trying to figure out what caused the bug and how severe
Right.
it's been. So let's say,
Mhm.
if the bug occurs on all the platforms that we're releasing, then that's something that, okay, this is something that
Probably
we,
deeper. Yeah.
and
Okay,
then.
so have good engineers.
Yeah, I mean, like, even engineers, sometimes it's hard to debug other people's code. Like, when you build something, your code the best. It's like the
Yeah,
Twitter.
you know, like I hear
Yeah.
it's like a language, and like if someone else, you just kind of like, it's harder to like kind of just pop in and be like, oh, like what did this person do? Because I wouldn't have done it this way. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I have a
And we
question.
have like retrospective sessions too. So like, let's say, if you run into like a really severe bug and you don't want to happen again, then engineers usually would like group together and they kind of walk through, okay, what happened, why did it
Mhm.
happen, what did we do to prevent it, so that they kind of keep track of all that process, so that in the future, if they run into like a similar type of experience, they know what to do.
Got you. Got you. Jackie had a question.
Yeah, and I don't know if there even is an answer to this, but I'm curious, Tara. Do you know if there's, or do you have any way to distinguish something from being a bug versus a glitch, or are they the same exact thing? I'm curious if you've ever,
Wait, yeah.
if there's like a difference there.
Oh,
Like
this
there
is a
could
good
be, but maybe
question.
it's similar.
I
Uh,
would say they all bugs, because there's like different types of bugs out there, right? There are like
We're really
functionality
getting
bugs.
into this.
Yeah,
No, but I'm
yeah,
so
no, but it's
curious.
true. Like, there's so many types of bugs. There are like functionality bugs. There's like art bugs, so like polishing bugs, very
Mhm.
minor, like, visual glitches. Yeah,
yeah.
but if your entire environment all of a sudden turned pink, then that's something. It's like, okay,
That's
super
a big
critical. We
problem.
need.
Yeah.
I think there's something wrong with the environment.
Yeah, so
I was
it
describing
really
my
depending
campaign.
on, the type of bugs that you're receiving. So
It's so
Okay.
funny, guys. Before I was at Spatial, like I would hear bug, obviously, and like think of like bugs in nature, and like now in casual conversation, if I hear like bug, I'm like, like I have like,
Someone's wrong.
oh, in my
Someone's
head.
wrong.
I'm like, oh my god, what do we need to fix? I'm like, oh my
yeah.
goodness, that literally like didn't happen like 3 years ago. So that's hilarious. But that's good to know too. Like cosmetic bugs, you know, like is my outfit, like
Mhm.
my RPM outfit glitching out, but I can still
Mm,
walk. Like obviously, so it's maybe not like a functionality thing. But
mhm.
kind of having those sections probably helps to like break it down and like manage like where things are coming from.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, this is a fun process that the three of us run into all the time, right? Like, you or like Jack or Tyrone would report to me a bug, and I would go into it and then look into like the video recording or like
yeah.
the description, and I'll be like, this is really, core experience bug. Then
Yeah.
we really would rank it really high in the priority list, and then I would talk to
Mhm.
engineers to kind of prioritize it. But sometimes it's like, okay, if it's just like a small glitch here and there, it only happens in one game but didn't happen in other games, then it's a little bit on a lower priority
Lower
side.
priority. I guess like that's like the word of this stream is like prioritization. Like prioritizing is like really important, I guess, with being like efficient in this process, just because like you can't do everything at once. So
Yeah.
like kind of knowing like how to delegate and knowing like which phase you're in, and like you said, I don't know, it's something that I really got from this like conversation is really like breaking things into small groups, setting goals for them, taking it
Hmm.
step by step, getting feedback, testing, and
Yeah.
kind of like moving forward. And I think that's obviously how Spatial works. Like even with
Mhm.
Tyrone and the Twitter spaces, like we're so feedback driven.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool to understand like the full process that kind of happens after you receive feedback and how you prioritize like what gets taken care of. So
Mhm.
super insightful. Oh my gosh, it's 2:56, guys. What? Oh my god, I really thought it was
We've been
like
having so much
2:30.
fun. Time
I
flies.
know. I've had so many like genuine like curious questions on this process
More.
because it's so complex. Yeah.
Is there anything from the audience that we want to use the last 3 minutes for?
Yeah, if you guys have questions, full free. I wonder who made the greenhouse space. That is Apache
Oh, I think your
Studios.
background. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
This one?
Apache Studios. This is one of my favorite spaces. I like literally see every single space that comes in. So I like memorize who
Mhm.
built what. But they also built Apache's Gauntlet. If you guys want to play their game, they are a small UK studio. Yeah, so they're really awesome, and they build beautiful experiences. Star
Yeah.
Horizon was all this. But if you guys have any
I love
questions,
what our community has been creating because it's just like wow us all the time.
I
You know, when you give
know.
the tool to creators and everybody kind of have their own, you know, way of like spicing it up or like building with it, then you kind of like, wow, it's like a collective
Right.
creativity that pours
Exactly.
into it.
Exactly. It is. And like we've built such a strong ecosystem, and it's really cool to just kind of see like everyone kind of moving with us and kind of just figuring out like, whoa, a game is also like such a complex word. Like you can build a lot of different experiences, and a lot of these things that you've covered, Tara, can be applied to, if you're creating a guided experience on Spatial, if you're creating a full scale game, if you're creating a mini game, like, or you want to use the quest system and build like a educational walkthrough of something, like, you can test all of these experiences the same way, and maintain quality assurance, the whole process of production, doing your research beforehand, all of those things can be applied to any experience that you build on Spatial.
Yes.
Someone said, what was the name of the game? It's called Apache's Gauntlet, Apache Gauntlet. It's really good, and I love it. That's actually one of the first games that popped up, and we were like, "Whoa!" Like people are building sick stuff on Spatial right now.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So yes.
Yeah.
I think there's like 2 more slides. I think.
Yeah. Do you guys want to wrap up?
Sure.
I think did we show that tools one? Yes, this is the one.
Yeah, we
Tools.
The nice
saw the
summary stuff.
tools, the recruit. I think the debugging info, maybe Jack, you could speak more about this to help the creators debug stuff when it happens.
Yeah. Yeah, so the debugging info, this can go for you if you're somebody that experiences issues and you want to report them, but also if you're building something, this is what you can ask for from the people that are testing your game. So you always want the steps from the person that they took to cause the actual issue or bug to happen. And if possible, like if they can get it, like I was saying earlier, a recording of them doing those steps and showing it happening. Then like your device info, normally it's somewhere inside the software, for whatever game you're playing, you can find what version of it you're on, so that then the devs know like, oh, they can correspond to their debugging efforts with a certain version of the game. And then depending how I guess tech savvy you are, you can go into either like if you're playing on a browser, your dev console in Chrome, and like capture some screenshots or footage from there to show like the actual processes that are running and where things could be going wrong. And then obviously, the key things that prevents the game from working properly if those arise, really. So yeah, that's what I would say is most important.
Yeah.
Support King Jack.
Yeah, I think that's all I have for the deck today. I mean, I think game development is really, really hard to do. It's a very complex process that involves a lot of people. So it's, highly encourage everyone to play test and QA as often and early as you can, because that's how you're going to get a lot of good feedback for your game in order to improve it. And that's also another way for you to build an audience early. One of the real interesting experience that I had in the past is like I recruit university students or like people, families, or like professional testers out there to play test the game, and they play test it so often that they become fans of the game, so they bought the game at the end.
Oh my god! So it's an early marketing hack as well, guys.
Yeah. I mean, because people get if they're interested, then they would join and they will continue to give you feedback, and if their feedback is answered, then that's kind of like a way for you to build relationship with your fans super early, right? And they would just and that's the thing about Spatial, like you don't have to build a full complete game in 2 years. Like you can just build every milestone, and then you put it on the homepage, and then people can just try it out, and then you continue to improve it, or you build an additional level to it, which is what I saw a lot of
Exactly.
creators already doing anyway, right? You don't want to put in
Yeah.
too much budget in the beginning. Just build incrementally and test incrementally, and then just get involved with your fans early on so that you have a healthy group of audience to support your game when you're launching it.
Yeah, when you're hard launching it, and that makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense. And also when you're it probably will help you build a better experience too, the more you do that like early on, and like you said, in stages, and kind of just like moving step by step. Because sometimes like when you want to try something new, like maybe you're like a new game dev, or you're new to the space and you want to like try something new, it can look like a big mountain. But I think like what you did a great job of today, Tara, is kind of like just showing like if you just break things down step by step and kind of test along the way and get feedback, you could always accomplish like whatever you want to do, and do it in the proper way. Because there are systems to this that make things easier. So thank you so much, Tara. This was so great. And I hope you guys all also enjoyed and had like an enriching and then a valuable experience. So thank you so much for joining, Tara, and Jack, of course, my
Yeah, no,
co-host.
thank you, Tara,
Yeah,
so
thank
much.
you so much for having me. This is super fun, guys. And yeah, if any creators have questions, or if you will need the deck to use as a template for your game, like please feel free.
Yes, definitely. Anybody, like, hit us up in the Discord, of course. Maybe we'll just post the template. We'll post this, maybe this deck entirely just like in the Discord, so people can kind of like always have it with them and kind of use it for future projects and things that they're working on now. But thank you, Tara. This is amazing.
Thank you so much, guys.
Real MVP.
so-
Let's go. Thank you,
For
Tara.
real. Thanks so much, guys, for joining and supporting our streams. We have so many more coming. We're going to be introducing more people from the team. Jake has really put in a lot of effort as well with like teaching the toolkit, and you guys have obviously seen Jack and I on streams a lot. We're really trying to offer as much valuable information as possible, so we appreciate you guys for also supporting us. Thanks, guys. Later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Peace out, y'all.